Duncan the Tall is a knight. There's a lot going around here on TikTok and elsewhere on social media about Dunk and how he's not a knight, how he's lying. And there is some evidence for that in the story, right? Just some examples from the show. The opening scene, when Dunk stands over Sir Arlen's grave, he thinks about what he's going to do next. And he thinks of either joining a city's watch or going and squiring for another knight. Well, those aren't things that a knight thinks of doing. Those are things that a squire thinks of doing. Another one I think is probably the most obvious example is that second scene in the show. You know, the infamous number 2 scene where Dunk's curled up against the thorn tree. And he looks up into the branches of the thorn tree and he sees a robin. Well, Dunk describes this scene later when he's speaking to Plumber, who's the master of games, because Plumber asks him, "Did anyone witness your dubbing?" And Dunk thinks back on that scene. He thinks back then, and he says that there was a robin in a thorn tree that witnessed it. If Dunk had really been dubbed and had really done vows, it would have been the single most important thing that had happened in his life up until then. He'd be able to picture it, but he couldn't picture it because it never happened. A couple other hints that kind of stand out are the words to the puppet shows that Tenzel Too Tall does. If you're watching the show again, turn the subtitles on and listen to the words that she's saying for the Florian the Fool or the Sermon of the Mirror Shield plays. And also there's his hesitation to dub Raymond Fossaway. Because if he was ever found out, and he had dubbed Raymond Fossaway, then Raymond Fossaway would also lose his knighthood. So while there's all this evidence that Duncan was never dubbed and never gave knightly vows, he's still a knight. And that's because in George R. R. Martin's stories, deeds speak louder than actions. Think of the saying, words are wind, and how often it comes up in A Song of Ice and Fire. So while Dunk hasn't given vows and hasn't been dubbed, he's still a knight because of what he does, because he protects the innocent. And he keeps his word and honors the vows that he does give throughout the 3 novellas. He's a knight the same way that Brian of Tarth is a knight. And the whole point of his story, and one of the major themes in the show, is what it means to be a true knight. And there's like an analysis of the different motivations that knights can have in the story. So think, for example, of the Trial of 7 and the 13 other knights that are gathered around for the trial and their motivations for being there. Right? Baelor's there because he feels that Dunk was fulfilling his vows properly. Makar's there because he wants to protect his sons and help them. The Kingsguard are there because they have to. Humphrey Harding's there because he wants revenge. And Humphrey Beesbury is there because he's related to Humphrey Harding. Right? Lionel's there because he thinks it'd be cool. And then Ryan Risewell's, he's there because his prince, Prince Egg, asked him to. So we have this whole cast of characters, all with their different motivations and different ways of fulfilling knightly vows, including Dunk. That's why he's a knight.